Welcome into a Wednesday, December 17th edition of Daily Faceoff Live. Tyler Yaremchuk and Carter Hutton with you, and there is plenty to get to today on the show. We're going to be joined by Steve Peters in a little bit for our big segment. We'll talk about some fresh faces in new places in Quinn Hughes, Zeev Buium, Tristan Jarry, Stuart Skinner, all of the big trade stuff from the last week and how those new players are fitting in with their new teams. We're looking for your inbox questions over on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. You can send those in with the hashtag askDFO. Carter Hutton, 8 more days till Christmas. You ready to go? You dialed in?
I am ready to go. Well, my wife's
doing.
They're doing well. What was today? Today was Starbucks. They had the other day was a good one. You guys would have loved it. I should have shared the photo. They cut the nipples out of my shirt. The elves did. So I came downstairs and they had scissors. This was planned by my wife. My kids went through the roof. So I have been a victim to the elves as well. So I feel for everybody out there who's been through this before. This is my first year.
You should have worn the shirt live on the show. Would have been a great look. Would have completed the whole story, Huts.
I saved that for my OnlyFans, Ty?
All right. Well, I will awkwardly move off of that. Last night in the NHL, a handful of big storylines, but perhaps none bigger than Leon Draisaitl's big milestone. He becomes the 103rd player in NHL history to reach the 1,000 point mark. He does it on a power play goal early on in the first period against the Pittsburgh Penguins, a secondary assist for Leon Draisaitl, but it doesn't matter. He hits the milestone, becoming the 5th fastest non-North American-born player in NHL history to reach the mark, and the first ever German-born player to hit the 1,000-point plateau. The Oilers come onto the ice, and listen, Huts, there's so many ways to go about this, from what it means for Draisaitl in his career, but the fact that, this image of Stuart Skinner being the goalie who gives up the milestone goal for Leon Draisaitl, it's quite the look, and you feel for Stu here as well.
That angle right there hit differently last night when I was, going through Twitter and watching the game and just seeing, this happen. I can't imagine how he's feeling right there. I think part of you wants to go over because you've been there for so much of it, and all these guys have been your best friends and your teammates, and you've been through so much together during those Stanley Cup runs and his time in Edmonton. But that being said, I know right now it probably feels a little bittersweet for him, and I heard his press conference after the game, but at the end of the day, he'll be happy, and I think being part of it is something that is important. So, that being said, what an honor for Draisaitl, right? The 5th fastest player outside, 5th non-North American player to be able to do it, was so impressive. And for a guy that, you look at where he was drafted and what they thought they had and what he's turned into, it's been a very, very impressive run for Leon Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers. And just the fact that it happened against Skinner, you couldn't script that, Ty.
Yeah. I went back and I looked through a few of some scouting reports on Leon Draisaitl from back in his draft year for 2014. It was a thing I was working on for OilersNation.com. And listen, he was drafted 3rd overall, but a lot of the scouting services I was going through, I went through about 15 different websites and their 2014 draft rankings. No one had him in the top 2 of that draft. Most places had him 4th behind Sam Bennett. A whole bunch of websites had him 6th, 7th, 8th in their draft rankings. And one of the scouting reports that I thought was hilarious, it was WHL from above said, his skating is another area of concern. He's a choppy, ugly skater, and that won't translate at the NHL level. Like, it's just funny to read all that. Not that skating is his strong suit, but to see him go from that 3rd overall pick in 2014 to a guy who now has 1,000 points in the NHL, and man, he's only 30 years old. Like, he could have 10 more years left in the tank here. Like, it's been an incredible career. A guy who did not come into the league as a goal scorer. This guy could be the next superstar or even a superstar in the NHL. For him to turn it around or turn it into what he's turned it into is just wildly impressive.
And that's the hardest part with scouting, right? I've seen this 1,000 times where, not to say 1,000 because 1,000 points, but it is like you don't know the development of guys and the adjustment they make. And the fact of the matter is, yes, his skating, even now, like, he is a guy that knows how to buy ice, and he's all about positioning and being in the right spots and reading the flow of the game. And there's an art involved in that. And I think for when you look at certain players, just because you're fast, just because you have speed, sometimes you skate yourself into coverage and you skate yourself into the wrong position. So being able to read the play and have that hockey IQ so high of Leon Draisaitl, now when you're in the NHL surrounded by even better players, it just gets magnified. And I think that's something when you start to think about predictions and where guys can be, you have to think of the fact that when you put them in a situation where they're surrounded by the best players in the world, can you keep up with it psychologically and where you're at? And I think Leon Draisaitl is a great example of that. Yes, he has skill through the roof, his playmaking ability, his vision, his talent, but the things that he lacked in that pre-scout, he makes up for being around good players and knowing where to go.
What did you make of the shirts that they had ready to go for Leon? The photo of him smoking a drunk cigarette, that's from his wedding day, actually. I thought these were great. And you can't really see, but the smoke rings are Oilers logos. They're very well done.
I loved it. I thought the whole thing was great. I actually have it up as my backdrop today. I know the backdrop on the TV gets a lot of press in the chat. So I loved it. I thought it was great. They embraced it. They all had their fake cigarettes in. And then the cake was unbelievable. You got to get to the bottom of this. I know this is a bit of a homer show to start here, but rightfully so. Mm-hmm. They've been great. Like, was that cake pre-made or was it made in Pittsburgh? Like, how do you predict when he is going to get his 1,000th point? Because this thing is a thing of beauty. I love it. I sent it to a few friends who don't smoke, but they just bum smokes from everyone else every time we go out somewhere.
So there was a bit on the broadcast, I think in the Montreal game, that the Oilers training staff had been on the road trip because they were in Toronto before that as well, with like a big crate of stuff that they were ready to give Leon when he got his 1,000th goal. But you know, it's a really twisted part of this, Huts, and you'd know a bit more about this having been in an NHL locker room. But when a player's closing in on a milestone, like, the guys will chip in and get them something, right? Like, everyone will throw in, I don't know how much money it is, but, you know, the cake, the shirts, I'm sure there was like a watch or something. They all got Leon Draisaitl, but you would have collected this money from the teammates, probably a week, 2 weeks in advance. Stuart Skinner might have chipped in, and that had to be the goal. You gave up the goal.
Yeah, it might be, you know, that's happened before. I've seen that. So normally what they do is if it's a guy's 1,000th game or points, you buy him a thing. A game's a little more predictable. A point is a little bit trickier. So you usually have a team slush fund, which goes into that. So you have a team fine fund that would pay for that. And then if you charge guys out of it. So Skinner probably did pay for a good chunk of that cake and everything that's gone into it. So kudos to him. And I think he handled it with pure class. This trade, everything that's going on. And you even see him in the hallway in the pregame saying hi to McDavid. So it was an interesting time. And again, kudos to the staff and everything they've done, because this looked awesome.
Yeah, the video you're talking about, that was actually post-game. That was after the game. Stu Skinner went over and congratulated Leon Draisaitl. So again, obviously guys that played together a long time. One more on Leon Draisaitl, then we'll move off of this. But where does he end up in terms of all-time NHL scorers? I think one of the really important things about Draisaitl, like very similar to you think about Alex Ovechkin, like Draisaitl hasn't been hurt all that often in his career. And if he can keep that going, there is a ceiling here for this guy that is like, I think potentially top 5 in all-time NHL scoring. So I crunched the numbers, Huts. Over the last 4 years, he's been at a 112-point pace. So looking at right now, from his age 30 to his age 35 season, if he can average 100 points per year for the next 5 seasons, which I think we'd both agree, you know, a 10% drop-off in production from, you can call it the prime of his career, to 31 to 35 years old, like not crazy. If he can average 100 points a year for the next 5, and then after that, if he can average 70 points a year for 5 years after that, so Leon Draisaitl stays healthy and plays to 40, we're talking about a guy who's going to be on the doorstep of 1,900 points, which only 2 other players in the history of the sport have done. Now, Sid and McDavid will get there before he does, but if he stays healthy, like, this is a guy who's probably getting top 10 all-time in NHL scoring.
Yeah, and I think it's very capable, right? So the player I think of when I think about his body and his size and the lack of, you know, flair to his game and the skating ability when you compare him to Connor McDavid is I kind of feel like Joe Thornton, right? And I talked to you a little bit about this before we got on, is his playmaking ability, his vision, his size, everything that goes with it. And Joe Thornton doesn't score like Leon Draisaitl did, right? Like, this is a fact that Joe Thornton in his game, he had 430 goals over 1,700 games. So that is the guy for me. So you look at he's got a ton of points, right? He's got 1,500 points. Draisaitl can keep scoring. Joe Thornton only had 2 seasons where he was over 100 points. So as I start to break this down, I think about his durability and how he can sustain it. There's a great example of a guy that was very valuable for a lot of years because of his vision, because of his power play capabilities. I got to think he gets there no problem. Like, if he can stay healthy and the way that he sees the game, he is a guy that we're going to see put up points for a long time. So I don't know where that number ends up, truthfully, but it's going to be up there high, right? I think he's over. Yep. Is he knocking on the door of 18, 1900 points? It's going to be pretty impressive, and I think he will, as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, again, health is going to be the big thing there, but I think he's a guy who will absolutely play till he's close to 40. All right, let's move off of that and get to a couple of other things that happened last night. I update kind of our show lineup and our show topics throughout the evening as I'm watching hockey games, and this one was originally going to be titled Berube's Boiling Point, Hudson. I was going to ask you, was this it, the final straw? They were down 2-0 after the first period to the Chicago Blackhawks. It led Craig Berube to, I mean, I don't know who he was yelling at. I think he was just yelling at everybody. You can read lips. One effing shot. That's all we got. It was going horribly for the Leafs last night against the Chicago Blackhawks. Nick Alberg, all those people, they were wondering, like, this team, are they ever going to find it? And then they turned it around in the third period. So the question's no longer, has Berube reached his boiling point, or has Leafs management reached their boiling point with Berube? But now it's, did that 3-goal third period potentially save Craig Berube's job and maybe go away to save their season?
Yeah, I don't think saved his job, right? There's still so much to go off on this team, but it's got to be infuriating sometimes coaching a team like this, right? You look at William Nylander. It's a 1-0 hockey game. He's carrying the puck. He just turns it over at the offensive blue line. They go back and get a shorthanded goal. And on that shorthanded goal, John Tavares and Austin Matthews are like side by side swinging to back check. John Tavares almost gets back. Matthews is still like F3 way at the blue line, like just efforts like that. But then they go and they make plays and they find ways to score and win games. I think Craig Berube, just like we heard Yaremchuk the other day, I just want a hard team to play against. I want a consistent team. I want a team that every night when you come into our rink, we are going to make it hard on you. And they don't get that. They're finding ways to win games right now, and I think that is important. But that being said, in the big picture of things, is this a team that we realistically think have a chance to win in the playoffs? I just don't see this team beating anybody in a 7-game series right now with that lack of desperation and effort. So I get where Craig Berube comes. I just worry that, I spoke about it yesterday. Maybe it was a little bump by me to Craig Berube, but we need a team that responds. And does his message run thin, right? He's a coach that coaches through emotion. He's an in-your-face guy. He has a good relationship, but these are high-maintenance players, right? Their stars are cool. They wear the clothing. They go to the events. They don't want to hear the truth at times. So I worry about this team come playoff time in the crunch.
Yeah, again, like the East being what the East is, they're 6-2-2 in their last 10. They're very, very far from out of it. But I mean, you even talked about their star players. Like this team got booed off the ice, I think, at the end of the first and second periods in that hockey game. I know James Duthie made a point on the TSN broadcast that Austin Matthews, through 2 periods, only had the puck on his stick for 11 seconds. And again, it's a 60-minute game. Hutz, you go into the third period. Austin Matthews scores the tying goal. He's got his hand up to his ear. He wants more boos from the crowd. Like he's giving it back to them a little bit. It's been weird so far this season in Toronto, I guess, is kind of my only point. It's felt awkward at times, and I think this goal was another example. But they come back, they get the win, and all of a sudden they're only 3 points out of a playoff spot. So everything calms down for now in Toronto. Before we get to Steve Peters, I wanted to play a little fill in the blank with you. A couple of situations to keep an eye on. One of them, and I'm going to flip the order here on you really quickly, Pat. I want to start with Macklin Celebrini, who had a 4-point performance last night. Another just unbelievable evening from the sophomore in San Jose. His second 4+ point night of the season. But Hutz, he also has 9 3+ point performances this year. He is at 50 points on the season. It is Celebrini, McDavid, and McKinnon. Those are the only 3 players to hit the 50-point mark so far in this NHL season. The fill in the blank, Macklin Celebrini has a blank % chance of making Team Canada. Hutz, I feel like after last night, it's got to be 100, right?
I think as you look at this player and what he brings, how dynamic he is, how complete of a player he is, and this isn't just me saying this from like a biased standpoint of where he's at and how I feel. It's everywhere. Any analyst, anyone will tell you how well this kid has adjusted and he played well. I think it's at a point where it's in the 90 to 100. Like he's got to be on this team. It'd be very hard for me to see anything change moving forward here. Like he is just so talented, Ty. So for me, I think he is a shoo-in to be on Team Canada at this point.
If they take, and I used this word when I talked about Logan Thompson and the goaltending earlier this season, if they take insert player here, Anthony Cirelli, Sam Bennett, whoever, if they take any one of those players over Macklin Celebrini, it is malpractice, and the management group should be fired before the Olympics even starts. Like, if a kid can put up 51 points in 34 games playing on the San Jose Sharks, he doesn't have a lot of help over there, Hutz. We talked about this earlier. The gap between him and their second leading scorer It's a big, big gap. There's absolutely no way that Macklin Celebrini can't be on that hockey team. He has to be there in Italy. It's a non-starter for me. He'll learn how to adjust to whatever role you want to put him in. He has to be there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think this is the turning of the tide, right? There's a little bit of a gap between the superstars of then and now. And the other factor for me, Ty, is you just need goals, right? These are going to be games that are so tight, so well defended. For a kid that can get an opportunity in a split second and finish, you need that, right? Instead of, you're going to have your depth guys. And again, I think skill can adapt here, and he's a kid that's ready for it. These guys are so confident now as younger players. I think he's ready to make the jump.
All right, let's get out to our big segment for the day. It's brought to you by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins if you're hosting, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. Steve Peters from Inside the Coaches Room and ESPN joins us, as he does every Wednesday on the show. And PD, a lot for us to get to because there's been so much news since we last had you on the program. But I want to kick things off with the rematch we saw last night. Jarry versus the Penguins, Skinner versus the Oilers. When it comes to Edmonton and their new netminder, what did you make of the trade, and what do you make of Tristan Jarry's, fit in Edmonton?
The reality is, like, when you look at the numbers and you look at the deeper numbers, Jarry's got some good numbers right now. So it's an upgrade right now. Save percentage, he was 15th, Skinner was 30th. Goals against, he was 18th, Skinner was 22nd. But I don't know if it's a big step up because one of the problems that Jarry doesn't solve is the defensive problems that the Edmonton Oilers have been having. And he doesn't solve the defensive zone turnovers. He doesn't solve the defensive zone coverage in front of the blue paint. I think Edmonton is still in trouble here. I don't know if Jarry moves the needle enough for me to really push this Oil team over the top when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's an upgrade. And the other concern is you had to give up Kulak, another player that you were talking about there defending and a guy that eats minutes. That's a big loss for the Oilers.
PD, so when I look at this trade, it feels a bit lateral, right? It feels like this trade happens because of just a frayed relationship and a trust issue, right? Where it's just same, but different, but we have a relationship now where we can build upon. And Stuart Skinner was in a tough situation, and not to undermine what he did for all those years. Does puck handling come into the equation? This is something that, for me, when I thought about my career and I was battling for positions, right? As a real estate market, you're just trying to compete with comparables, where I always thought handling the puck was such a differentiator for me. Is that something you think that will help this Edmonton Oilers decor? And we saw it last night. Jarry had some great plays.
I do, and there's a big difference because when Skinner handled the puck for the Edmonton Oilers, it was a quick release. Like, he got the puck and I don't want to say panic, but he moved the puck quickly, and at times that wasn't the right play. He just threw the puck along the wall. When you see Jarry, and take last night as example, like, he held the puck longer. He made a little bump play to McDavid to the inside, low and slow. He held it a beat longer, so he was able to beat a defenseman. A forward on the forecheck. I think he was smarter with the puck. I'm not necessarily, does he shoot it harder or placement? He's smarter. And yes, that makes a difference. I think his patience with the puck really showed last night. And I do think that's going to help the Edmonton Oilers defensemen get the puck in a better spot and be able to break out the puck cleaner. This is one of the differentiators that I think you nailed it, Hutz. I think this is one of the subtle differences that you might not actually notice as the game goes on, because all it's going to do is break the puck out quicker, but it's just those quick, subtle plays that are going to help the Edmonton Oilers defend less. So yeah, I do think that is an advantage for the Oilers.
And that's a great point, too. I think Jordan Binnington does that. And for an organization that had Mike Smith, who at times I thought tried to do too much and the puck would end up in your back of your net, it is those little smart plays. And as for smart players, I listened to Quinn Hughes post-game, Minnesota Wild. And what does he bring to this team other than his hockey IQ and his immediate skill and makes this team a contender, Petey?
I tell you what, this guy offensively, and we talk about the comparisons to him and Makar, what Quinn Hughes does with the puck is special. And the more you watch him do those little things, and again, it's the little things we talked about, Jarry making the little play. Quinn Hughes can make a little 5-foot pass and nobody will notice. When you look at what he does, it's these kind of plays where he's able to move his feet, get himself out of danger, and get the puck out of the defensive zone. And doing it for Vancouver, well, sometimes the puck would come back at him. But this is one of his greatest strengths, is the puck up the ice quickly on long breakout plays, extending the ice, helping Vancouver try to play quickly. But when you look at Minnesota is a better team up front. front. They're better balanced, and they have forwards that can do something with that puck when you get it high in the zone. So Hughes is a guy that can make those plays, but he's doing the same things as he gets to Minnesota, is making these long stretch plays right on the tape and help advancing the offense. He does help the Minnesota team play faster, and here he is. One of his, you can see my spelling mistake, breakout. Nice job, Petey. But his ability to get the puck out and make really good plays from behind the net, Minnesota's going to play faster. They're a more skilled team than Vancouver Canucks, and his play along the blue line, when he can pull traffic with him and make plays and open up ice for his teammates, that's what makes him special. His footwork and his ability to walk this blue line to get his teammates better looks at the puck, to change the angles of the way he shoots to the goaltender, the way he can hold the puck long enough to beat players one-on-one. It's a confidence thing, and his high skill ability to make footwork like this, like it's almost like he's toying with the opponents. That's going to help the Minnesota Wild. I do think Quinn Hughes is the second best puck handling defenseman in the National Hockey League, and I do think that is a big help to the Minnesota Wild.
So one thing, as we reevaluate this Minnesota team now after the big trade, like best blue line in hockey, I think there's certainly a case for that. We know how good the goaltending duo has been for long stretches this year. And in the aftermath of it, I sat there and went, oh man, but they're still not going to be able to score. Like they need to add a big forward. And like they probably still do. But in that reaction, am I maybe undervaluing like just how big of an impact Quinn Hughes will have in helping these forwards produce more offense?
I think you nailed it. And I really like Quinn Hughes, and I think he's going to help their power play instantly. And I think they have the talent on this power play with Kaprizov to be able to be more effective on the power play. But you got to look at Quinn Hughes has been playing for years. Did he push the needle that much in Vancouver? Absolutely offensively. But this isn't a Vancouver Canuck team that had high-skilled forwards that thought they were going to go places in the playoffs. And Quinn Hughes didn't help them do that. Now, I know he's just one player, and he's on a better team in Minnesota, but the expectations of him being the guy that's going to guide them to the Stanley Cup Finals, I don't think that's realistic. They're better. I think they have a better D. I think this team has better forwards than Vancouver, but they're still looking up at Dallas. They're still looking up at Colorado, and they're going to have to find a way to beat those teams once the playoffs start. They're still the third best team in the Central, with or without Quinn Hughes.
So let's go to Zeev Buium next and flip this to the Vancouver side of the conversation. I think they've been applauded for the return they got, but Marco Rossi, he has a ceiling. He's a top six kind of forward, but there's definitely a ceiling there. Ogren's a project. A first-round pick is sure a first-round pick, but Buium feels like he has a chance to be the guy who really swings how we view this trade in the next 3 to 5 years. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think Rossi's needed there. I think they need the help up the middle of the ice. And with him just coming back from injury, I think we're going to have to see what his ceiling is in Vancouver. And I think that's going to take some time. But when you look at Buium, we talked about all the things we said with Quinn Hughes, but you look at the skill set from him, it's a lot of the same things. His ability to make those long stretch patches to help his team break out of the zone, his ability to have that vision to make those plays, his ability to use his feet to help in the offensive side of the puck. Buium does a lot of the things that Quinn Hughes does, but he just doesn't do them as well. And partly because he's 20. And I do think when you watch Buium play, he does it with a different pace than Quinn Hughes, especially when he's joining the rush. He's got a little bit more jam to his game, and he gets back into the defensive zone with a little bit more jam. But when you talk about the footwork and his ability to make quick plays in tight areas, it's not the same as Quinn Hughes. Will it be? I think Buium's going to be a really good player. I think right now in Vancouver, that's a little more loose with their structure and a little more loose offensively. I think it's going to be a great spot for Buium. I think he's going to be able to play free. I think he's going to get the puck up, and I think he's going to help their offense. But he's not Quinn Hughes. Unfortunately, he'll never be Quinn Hughes. But I think it's a good addition to Vancouver. I think it's the right player at the right time in Vancouver. I think Quinn Hughes was wasted in Vancouver because this is a team that wasn't going to be in the playoffs for the near future.
Petey, for me, Petey. I had one last thing to add there. We had chatted about it earlier. How funny is it in an NHL locker room running a video session when something goes wrong? Like, talk about everything can be perfect. No one gives you love, but like you spell something wrong on the board, like breakout, or the boys giving it to you. Cause that used to be one of my favorite things to do. Or I would slide the cap on the projector.
It is the worst. And we had Derek Morris, and I know you guys know Derek Morris is a grumpy guy. Like, Derek Morris can be on edge. And one of the things that struggled, you just want to make sure the projector worked. And once the old school projectors turned off, dude, it was 5 minutes. Like, you had to wait. So he would walk by right before the meeting started, and you just press power. And you're like, But there's nothing you can do. You got to wait for the lamp to cool off and restart. And it's the heart rate goes up and you're panicking. You got, and we're talking Rick Tocchet, Wayne Gretzky, Dave Tippett yelling at you. Horrific. But the worst all time was in Chicago, in that little, the visitor room in Chicago. It's tight. It's dark. And I was just having a series of events that one thing after the other. And my chair, I was one of those folding chairs, and I fell. I sat down in it, and the chair doubled up. The players, the entire meeting were just laughing. Like it just was a waste. Like I shouldn't even have presented it. So it is horrific when technology goes wrong for the video guy.
That's good stuff, Petey. Way less pressure when you join us here on DFO Live on the media side of things.
Almost. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm excited to see where all these guys go. I think these are exciting trades for the National Hockey League. I think it puts a focus on a Minnesota Wild team that's better than people thought, just don't get a chance to see. So I think it's exciting on all of these trades. I think Skinner's going to go on a run. You wait, Ty. I think Skinner's going on a run in Pittsburgh. It's too bad he had to play Edmonton first.
Yeah, I mean, you just want to talk about mentally, right? Him getting out of the pressure cooker, I think, is a big thing for Stu. All right, Petey, appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this, and we'll chat again next week.
We'll talk soon.
Moving along, daily face-off inbox question, #askDFO. There's a couple here. Mechanicsville. The Canucks are undefeated since trading Quinn. Do they finish over or under the 9th seed in the Western Conference? I'll say this. They're definitely going to be worse than the 9th seed, but the worst outcome for the Canucks this season is them coming anywhere other than one of those bottom 2 spots in the Western Conference. If they get hot for 20 games and it ruins their lottery chances, that's just brutal. They need to be a bottom 3 lottery team this year.
Yeah, you can make all the assessment you want of the trade so far. I think this is one down the road. I think that was the right play, 3-4 years out. But Demko's back. That changes everything. Demko was good. He gave up 1 in Jersey. He had a shutout last night. If he can stay healthy, who knows what this team can do. But them losing out on a draft pick after all the shenanigans that have gone on, I think would be very worrisome for the future of the Canucks.
J-Rock steps in. He says, which team needs to make a trade before the holiday roster freeze? I'll go ahead and say I think we're actually done with the trades for now. I don't think another team is going to be itching to make a deal, but if there is one, it might be Yaremchuk out in Buffalo. Today at Sabres practice, their owner, Terry Pegula, was actually on the bench watching practice, and Lance Lysowski, who covered the team for, I think, 7 or 8 seasons, he now covers the Buffalo Bills. But he said in his 7-8 years covering the team, he never saw Terry Pegula at a non-training camp practice. Hutz, you were there. Pegula on the bench for practice. I think that says something about, the temperature in Buffalo right now.
Yeah, it is wild. I think that's sending a message to the guys of where he's at. And he was very approachable. He was a very great guy. He took very good care of his players. But at this point, it feels like anything can go. And again, I think for Kekalainen, sending a message to these guys are going to be important. But I do remember Terry Pegula sometimes before games. We had like a circular room in Buffalo, and there was the exit to where we would walk out. He would kind of come hang in the trainer's room and just kind of feel the vibe of the room. And I guess when you own the team and you're worth $8 billion, you can do whatever the heck you want. But he was always great to me and my family. So I do hope that he can turn it around there in Buffalo.
Let me throw you a bonus fill in the blank. Percent chance the Sabres find a way to. They're in the basement of the East right now, but they're only 6 points out of a playoff spot. Percent chance Buffalo finds a way to use this jolt here of the GM change and get hot, make the playoffs.
I'm going to have to go low here. Maybe I'll go 25%. I'll give them a little bit of hope that they can get something going because I do pull for them, but they need a goalie to just play and be the guy and give them a leash. And I think that's something you're going to see high priority here.
Yeah, Money Puck has them at 14%, but hey, they've won 3 in a row. They're also plus 400 on Bet365, so implied odds of 20% from the sports books there. On that note, let's get to our daily bets for Bet365, and I'm checking my eyes here. Hutz, I might need your glasses. Is that 3 green check marks, gentlemen? Pat, we all nailed it.
We needed it so bad. Yeah, we bet on some chaos yesterday, and we got it. Mine at minus 105 is not so impressive, but I think, like you said, Hutz, before the show, should have parlayed all of these.
I know. I felt it, right? I just knew it was the night. I did it on my starting goalies at Bet365. You guys can check that out as well. We're hot. Let's go, Oilers. This is a homer show, but we can't bet the Oilers tonight, so you're going to have to wander into the rest of the NHL, boys.
I didn't touch the Oilers. I had 2 overs. They both cashed comfortably last night. I also had the juiciest one, but I need it because I'm very easily in last place in this betting challenge. But my pick for tonight, a little same game parlay action. Both the Utah Mammoth and the Detroit Red Wings are playing on the second of back-to-backs, but I love Detroit in this spot. They are 10-6-1 on home ice. They're the team in the second of this back-to-back who don't need to travel. They've won 2 in a row. They're 6-2-2 in their last 10. Lucas Raymond, Dylan Larkin playing on the top line, each of them to get a point. Detroit on the puck line, plus 325. And if this hits, you guys will be hearing the footsteps coming in this challenge. Pat, what do you got?
I'm going to keep it simple tonight. I've got a simple Carolina -1.5 versus Nashville at plus 140. I mean, Nashville has been playing a little bit better as of late, but I don't believe in them. And Carolina also been, I wouldn't say slipping, but they haven't been up to their standard as per usual. So I feel like tonight's a bit of a get right game for them. So Carolina at -1.5 at plus 140 seems pretty juicy to me. What about you, Huts?
Well, I had to wander here. Actually, I'm going back to my 2-team parlay here. I like Florida here at home against the LA Kings. They just don't have their starting goalie. Kemper's out. Then I like the Winnipeg Jets money line against St. Louis Blues. I think that loss the other night to Ottawa, Hellebuck back. This feels like a must win in the Central Division.
I like it. We're all taking plus money shots coming off a 3-win Tuesday in the NHL. Wrapping up the show with a little bit of garbage time here, and it's something that I want to call out. This is the real name of the segment, but Lane Lambert doing his post-game media availability yesterday for the Seattle Kraken, and it was pointed out on Twitter by a Kraken reporter that he didn't take any questions from anyone other than the team employee in the room. So the team paid reporter. He did not take questions from any of the traveling media or anything like that. He did a 1-minute post-game press conference where, again, no questions. They've lost 9 of their last 10 in Seattle. It's obviously going terrible. I feel for a guy like Lambert coaching a team that is struggling like this. But for a head coach who demands accountability out of his players, who demands toughness and mental focus and all those things that a hard-nosed head coach like Lane Lambert demands, to go into this press conference, and I don't know if it's his doing or if it's the PR staff's doing, whoever wears the blame for this one, it's bullshit and it's garbage and garbage time that Lane Lambert and the Seattle Kraken iced out the media at the post-game press conference. It's just cowardly.
Well, I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that up, buddy. That was good. That was a good breakdown. I love it. And again, I think it is, you can't pick and choose when you do it, right? This is the life we chose, right? And I think that's something that I always reflect on when things weren't going well. Too much is given, much is expected. And I think this is the cross you bear being an NHL head coach, being a player. And yes, at times it doesn't seem fair and it can suck, but that's what comes with it. You got to deal with it. And again, a lot of people rely on those interviews. That's why you make as much money as you do, Lane. So I love Lane Lambert. I'm sure it was just a moment of weakness, and he was obviously very upset with the result that he had from his team.
Yeah, and again, I don't know if it's on Lane or if it's on the PR staff in Seattle, but someone wears the blame for this one. And sometimes the hypocrisy just drives me nuts. It's a little unrelated, but I think about Tortorella, and every stop Tortorella goes to, he's got run-ins with the media, and he doesn't want to do his post-games, minute press conferences because he's not in the mood to talk. And then the second John Tortorella gets fired, oh, look, he's behind the desk at TSN. He's on the TNT panel. Oh, he's not afraid to run to the media when he wants to get a paycheck. And sometimes the hypocrisy from coaches who, again, demand mental toughness, all this stuff, accountability from their players. Oh, you need to take accountability in front of a microphone, and now you don't want to do it. Shit like that drives me up the wall. But anyways, DFO YouTube chat, you got a little spicy, Tyler, today. It's been a while since I've gotten that fired up about something. But that's a wrap on today's edition of the show. Draisaitl 1,000 points. Quinn Hughes impact in Minnesota. Big shout out to Petey for swinging by and giving us some insight into that. Tomorrow, Dave Pagnotta on the show, and he's got a report up at thefourthperiod.com that Rasmus Anderson's trade market could be heating up. So we'll chat about that and more tomorrow with Dave. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at noon Eastern. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.